Siege of Winterfell is a new recurring event just like Alliance Conquest and Army of the Dead. My name is Fringlish with Forgotten Games, and today we'll be going over this new event. The main difference between this and the other events is that in this event, everyone needs to contribute equally and actively in order to win. When the battle starts, 2 outposts on either side will open up. The current choice seems to be to make sure that before the battle starts, you divide all your alliance members into 2 even groups. Those groups should always focus on their side of the entire match. If you start on the right hand side, you'll be responsible for the right hand side buildings, and so on. A rally leader should also take over command of these individual groups, be it 2, 3, however many you split your alliance into. The reason for this is it can take over 5 minutes to get from one edge of the map to another, so small group tactics, especially communication in between the people currently around your area, can be extremely important. In the Siege of Winterfell, each player can create 3 armies. Unlike other game modes, which are based on expedition limits, everyone has 3. From the smallest to largest, you have 3 armies you can fill. But you're entirely free to choose which formations you pick. But you should definitely keep in mind that your best stats will deal more damage. Some of your stats will apply, like combat rate, formations, base army size, and troop counters. And your selected commanders will also determine the power of your team and the skills. But importantly, you cannot buff the troops using army size, attack scrolls, or even titles. A full cavalry or cavalry infantry formation is a wise choice in this event as they can maneuver really quickly and can be used to pick up resources or rush to the aid of captured bases. Spearmen and bowmen have an advantage as they fight from more range and can be used effectively when with a lot of allies without the risk of taking damage. However, spearmen themselves are extremely slow, meaning that infantry will often have a minute or 2 ahead of spearmen in most formations, and bowmen are still weak when it comes to melee, but their range can be interesting for kiting. After you set up your 3 armies with your best commanders and make sure the commander with the most prominent skill, either healing or stat boosting, is your lead commander, you're ready to go. The reason why you set up your commander with the most prominent skill first is that your lead commander will activate his ability first, and after that the left deputy commander, and then the right deputy commander, and then the cycle continues. A main feature of this new game mode are the outposts. Following the current normal strategy seen by teams in the game, the Stark team will take the 2 Stark outposts in the north, and the Greyjoy team will go for the 2 other Greyjoy outposts at the bottom of the map. If the entire group just casually marches through the objective, it should be yours already, so you don't need to stand still unless you have a very low amount of people joining. If you somehow walk past it, you can easily send 1 army back to capture it. The amount of people on a location will increase the speed at which you capture, but it's fairly quick regardless. The objective will give you 80 points per minute and an initial point boost of 200. After that, you just march on towards the next nearest outpost, which will open 4 minutes later, and wait there. The objective will give you 600 initial points and 180 points per minute, which makes them a lot more important. There will also be a lot more fighting around these outposts as they are a lot closer together to the enemy line. Even though you probably don't have to worry as much about the initial outposts as they're hard to reach for the enemy, and people with fresh troops can pick them back up quite quickly. If either the named outpost, or Stark or Greyjoy, or the unnamed outpost on your side are captured, you can just simply follow the same route as you did before, gathering troops at your base and then marching through both, heading towards Winterfell. 3 minutes after these open, or 7 minutes from the start, 2 other buildings will open, the Hot Springs and the Armory. The Hot Springs is pretty much like the Temple of the Mother in Alliance Conquest. However, if you brought 3 million troops, you technically won't have to heal much if you play smart. For example, with 3 million troops, you can spend the entire match near Winterfell constantly fighting, but still have enough troops in reserve. You get most of the troops back at your castle, so you can replenish quite easily. In this instance, despite Reaper healing up some cavalry, he still has plenty of infantry and spear left to do the entire match without healing, and almost getting the top scoring position on eliminations. This means that in medium and large alliances, it is best to focus on the Armory. The Armory gives a 50% boost to army attack, army defense, and army health, and that is pretty strong, especially as you don't have as many boosts as normal going in. Knowing that, you might want to consider making the group that goes to the side of the Armory slightly bigger, as the enemy might possibly do the same. In this scenario, you might want to split your alliance up 2/3 to 1/3. After all the side objectives open, you will still have 5 minutes to gather near Winterfell before the first resource arrive. If the enemy already has a large army around Winterfell, the last thing you should do is rush in. Gather as many troops from both sides as you can, team up somewhere near Winterfell, and wait until most of your players have arrived. You may need to leave a decent defence near, for example, the armory, if the enemy keeps on pressuring you there. However, most troops should gather around Winterfell, as this is the single most important way to gain points. Every so often, a resource bundle will be dropped near Winterfell. Every resource bundle that's dropped near Winterfell will be worth 1,000 more points than the previous resource, starting at 5,000 points. This means that the first resource is already worth as much as the Greyjoy and Stark outposts can generate over an entire match, as it can only generate 5,000 points total. The unnamed outpost can generate a total of 11,400 points, if in control of them the entire match, while the Hot Spring and Armory can generate 7,600. Going for the enemy furthest outpost is a waste of manpower. It generates too little to send people all the way there. However, capturing enemy outposts can be very beneficial if you have good control over Winterfell area and Armory. It could be also used as a diversionary tactic, as you only need one army to capture an outpost, as long as you're the only thing there, meaning you can pull enemy troops away while sacrificing little on your end. Every 5 minutes, Winterfell will generate a new resource, but the cooldown for the next one only starts when the treasure arrives, not when the treasure is spawned or collected. Considering you have 45 minutes left after the first resource, and the resource will take about 2.5 minutes in transit before it gets to your stronghold, you will most likely spawn a maximum of 6 resources, which will have a total value of 45,000 points. This is almost 4 times more than your best outpost, and by far the easiest way to win. The resources will drop around Winterfell, and everyone in the vicinity has a random chance to pick it up, so you need to make sure to not be all clumped on one side, as you could end up giving the resources to a very quick, sneaky enemy. When a resource is spawned, try to make sure that you pick it up with cavalry, or at least not spearmen, as they are extremely slow. Not only will you slow down carrying the resource, but also a lot more vulnerable. So you don't want to have the spearmen get it and move very, very slowly. If an ally picks up the package, protect the ally and peel enemies off him. Many commanders apply effects that render them useless, like Genie, and this will be vital to keep that ally alive. Other commanders can heal in an area, like Annie or Sansa, allowing you to continue to buff them and keep them healthy while they're running to your stronghold. Now we'll look into a bit more detail about the actual fighting. After the armory and the unnamed outposts are captured, you should team your main force around Winterfell. People from left and right gather preferably to the south or north of Winterfell respectively, and don't waste troops by going in solo. This is a very important aspect in this game mode. It does not care about your BR or merit, you do not go in solo. The enemy will assemble most of their players here as well, so it's where the fierce fighting will occur. First thing to note when actual fighting is the pincer attack bonus. It is always important to fight with at least 2 of your armies together, because when multiple allies or own armies attack the same target, it will create the pincer attack effect and do additional damage to your target. It is quite common to see a pincer attack times 6, 8, 10 plus during the battle. The second thing is area of effect. Your army can only attack one target, but all area of effect skills by heroes will affect all allies and enemies in the range of the skill. This makes healers and debuffers very effective to have in your formation in the big battles. The final thing to note is the counterattack ability. When you get attacked, you will instantly do 1 counterattack per enemy, even on range, but this will do reduced damage. Therefore, it could be useful to engage first with your spear or bow commanders, as they proc the counterattack on a range damage and therefore take less in retaliation. Troops engaged in battle will generate rage. Rage will also be generated by attacking continuously, counterattacking, or using skills. If you have fewer soldiers than the enemy, you also generate rage faster. This makes making a smaller army with healers a beneficial tactic if you want to use their abilities more often, but you need to be engaged in battle. Lastly, let's look at casting skills. Each commander will have a different rage cost as well as cooldown. Disengaging from combat will reset the casting order, so for example, if Sansa is your chief commander, her skill healing will be cast first. If you then break free from combat and engage again, she'll be the first one to cast her skill again, so if you have a defensive formation with Sansa in front, you may want to disengage just to get the heal quickly. A good tactic to use is called kiting. When you see one or more enemies attack your troops and you are near multiple allies, falling back will force them to chase you. Since infantry is one of the fastest troops, they are quite good for this, as they remain quite tanky. If the enemies do not react to you pulling back, they will automatically start chasing you through your enemy lines, and the allies can easily pincer their troops. This can also backfire on you, so make sure you always have your eyes peeled, otherwise your attacking troops could be caught out and dragged straight through the enemy camp. Infantry and cavalry are also ideal for hunting down enemy resource carriers. They will be incredibly slow, you will have to march through enemy lines yourself in order to ambush them, so a quick group is a must. You can dispatch the enemy carrier quickly, and the resources will be dropped on the floor for you to pick up and pull back to your lines. Another very good kiting unit is the bowman, a unit for the most part that is not used in other events. It really comes onto its own. With its increased range and good base attack, a strong bow formation can kite the enemy formations, dealing a lot of damage if they do not react, without much risk to you. However, bowmen will fall very quickly if caught in between two armies, so watch out for cavalry formations. All in all, Winterfell's resources are the way to win, so you really need to focus most of your troops onto that endeavour while making sure to control your field at all times. While it is preferable to defend the armoury, if the enemy has a lot of troops there, you can still capture all the other strongholds while the defences are out of place. Or you can regroup everyone around Winterfell, and despite not having the armoury, you'll still have the advantage purely in numbers. One final thing to learn is how units move around the map. For short distances you can move freely, however if you make long distance clicks, your army will follow large and predictable transit nodes. These nodes are set around the map at specific places, so keeping an eye on these can let you know where the enemy is heading and what sort of forces to expect. There is no fog of war on this map, so it's always useful to have someone panning around keeping track of the big enemy formations. Between resource spawns, it can be advantageous to send one or more troops home to either fully replenish troops or let them die if they're too low to get home faster. You will only lose a small portion of the troops dead if you get killed, and a fully reinforced army in the late game can hold very well against 2 to 3 wounded enemy armies. I hope this Siege of Winterfell guide helps you plan your basic strategies better and understand more what to do for yourself. If you made it this far, please leave a comment on the Chronicle page where Reaper posted this video for a chance to get a wonderful gift code. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also comment down below. We'd love to hear back from you. Thank you very much for watching. From everyone here at Forgotten Games, toodles.